Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, clean energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today on a Tuesday with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Good. The air conditioning is still working, so we're good. You know, we had what I think we got to 105 here on Sunday.
It was pretty warm. It was pretty warm.
It was pretty warm. Yes, it was.
Yeah, my dogs would go outside and come back in, and their fur was like hot to the touch.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know what I think it's supposed to probably start to cool down tomorrow. I believe
Yeah,
cool down. It'll be down to low 90s.
yeah. Well, that'll be nice. Um, I don't know. I'm not. I don't mind. I don't mind the heat as much as most people, I guess. And maybe it's because I lived in the South for so long.
All
Um,
right. Well,
but
there's a gentleman here that is an acquaintance of mine. He's a master beekeeper, and he's from Texas. And he says, "Well, I've moved up to Nebraska, and my blood has thinned. So when I go back to Texas, it's too hot for him
yeah,
because
yeah.
he's
It
gotten
is.
used to the climate up here."
Yeah, it is quite a change. All right. So let's start out talking about the American EV industry being in crisis. Ford, GM, Dodge, Honda, Nissan, Acura, and Jeep have all either canceled or delayed multiple EV programs. Ford killed its Bullet Train electric SUV and Lightning pickup. GM retired several EV sedans. Automakers cite profitability concerns and market conditions. Nearly $70 billion in program write offs. You know, the sedan issue. I mean, Ford got rid of all their gas powered sedans because they weren't making the money like they do on the trucks and the SUVs, right?
Yep,
So,
yep.
I mean, I guess that's not a real big surprise um, that GM keeps, that they keep getting rid of the Bolt, and but the Bolt is sort of morphing into more of a small SUV, right, as opposed to being a car.
Yeah,
What they call an
I would
EUV.
say yeah. Although
Um,
I guess the closer would be the electric Equinox.
yeah, but you know, they really don't have an electric just car. I mean, other than the Bolt, right? All the others
No,
are
that
true
well,
SUVs or trucks.
yeah. Although I don't know what do you call the Cadillac Lyric and
Well, the Lyric's an
uh,
SUV.
s- e, yeah, I guess the
Yeah,
line gets really sort of thin between what is a big long sedan and what is a and what they carried the roof line a little further back. I don't know. It's
I'm honestly surprised that GM didn't bring out an electric station wagon and a Palomino. So,
Palomino.
or the old hybrid car truck. It was like a car body, but had a truck bed.
Oh, Camino.
Camino. Oh, my bad.
The
Okay.
El Camino, I think, is what it is. Yeah.
Palomino. I don't know. It was something, right?
Hey, well, I think we're resorting anymore now to a thesaurus or AI now to come up with names for these cars. So
Yeah. I've been spending the last about 6 weeks working on, you know, water projects, cleaning up PFAS, getting cities money, and that ends on Friday. And it's really sad because according to the judge in the case, over half the money is going back to the defendants. So 3M and DuPont, who were the big polluters in the PFAS situation, are going to get about $6-7 billion back.
dollars back.
Yeah, and just the whole case ran for like 7.5 years, and um, we've had just a crazy number of cities enroll in the past month, and to the point where it seemed like all the work we did before that didn't matter. Then all of a sudden, at the last minute, it's like, oh, we forgot to do it.
They're just now hearing about it.
Well, they probably heard about it years ago, just never did anything, and now they realize they lose their rights because they didn't file. I
Yeah.
wouldn't honestly be surprised if the court gave another extension, because it just seems really hard to fathom that the court got the defendants to settle for $13 billion and only like 5 or 6 billion of it's been claimed. Yeah.
Well, let's see now. What happens? Investment stock wise, do we? see a little jump in DuPont or
DuPont and
whoever.
3M stock because I don't know. I don't know that it's going to make big news that they get the
This
money
is
back.
this is this is not financial advice, folks.
No.
Okay, it's just two guys spitballing and thinking about what the possibilities are, and that's all. Not
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. I don't think it. Well, it will be a big, you know,
What
bonus.
I saw a headline that the Supreme Court made some kind of a ruling regarding stock investments by politicians, I guess, except that the ruling exempted 3,600 stock trades allegedly done by the Trump family in the
Mhm.
first quarter of this year.
Wow.
3,600 stock trades. A little insider trading going on there, you think?
You never know. You never know.
No, I'm pretty sure their rankings. What they've done something since he's taken office. His personal wealth has gone up something like $2 or $3 billion. So yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of that's been in the crypto stuff. Most of that's been the
yeah,
crypto.
yeah. You know the story there, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But that's I don't know. Most of your crypto things seem to be rug pulls. There's
Well, of
only
course they are. Of course they are. That's what they're designed for.
yeah.
Now there
I
are there
feel
are there are exceptions. There are legitimate blockchains out there that have real function, right? They're not like their meme coins to, go to the moon and have what intrinsic value,
well.
you know?
It was like
What services do they provide that have intrinsic value and growth potential?
what were the things
Zero.
that were fractionalizing art? I've already
Oh yeah,
forgotten
the we were fractionalizing
art and
apes
monkey
and
pictures and although
yeah,
I've already forgotten
yeah,
what that's called. Isn't it
yeah.
sad?
Board Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just hard to fathom. It's like nobody talks about that stuff anymore. And what it was it had some use, and I can't even remember if somebody in the chat can remember what that's called. But it's there were some legitimate use cases for that stuff, but it was usually just made for goofy. It seemed
Yeah,
to just be goofy stuff, and it made no sense.
yeah, yeah.
Um, But anyways, let's move on to Volkswagen. So Volkswagen introduced the ID.Polo. They've taken 70,000 European orders in weeks, significantly exceeding expectations.
And we should point out that that is a generic platform for their Spanish Cupra division, for their
Skoda,
I don't know, for Skoda, and that's in the Czech Republic, I guess. I
yeah,
used to call it Czechoslovakia, but it's like Czech Republic because now there's Slovenia and these, other minor spin-offs of that. So, yep. So they got the Volkswagen. There's another one too. What is it? Audi? I don't recall
I
now, but
only see in what I've got. I just show the ID.Polo, the Skoda Epiq, and the Cupra Raval. I
yeah,
had
but they're
20,000 orders.
yeah, the ID what do they call that? It's not their Golf model, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's a generic
So
model that
Volkswagen's European EV order book surged 50% in the second quarter. EVs are now 30% of total orders for Volkswagen.
fantastic.
Yeah. New 37 kilowatt hour ID Polo starts under $30,000 with a 207-mile range. VW's answer to Chinese competition. Well, good for them. Hopefully that they can make money selling it at 30,000. That's the problem here in the States. Ford and GM and them, they can't make money selling a vehicle that cheap. And they just simply, apparently, as soon as they put four tires on it, it cost
The
$40,000.
Yeah, the other exciting news out of Germany is that their solar installations have now produced more electricity than their coal-fired power plants. I think that's correct. I'd have to go back and check it on the website, but they have set a record. There's more renewable energy being generated than was generated by their conventional fossil fuel power
Is that
plant.
on a max output type thing? I bet. Because the thing is,
Well,
people a lot of times want to compare solar to something like coal, which is baseload. And you start going to 14,
well,
15%
have to
versus
go
the
check.
100.
I think I put it at the. It's one of the top stories on the. Well, let's see here. Did I write
I
it
mean, they
down
clearly
here?
have a
No.
lot of solar. It's just sometimes those arguments are a little disingenuous.
Yeah, you could argue the base plate rating of the solar is more than the base rate of the steam powered the thermal generators, right? And
Right.
so you could maybe that's what they're looking at and arguing.
Yeah.
Although, as we know, the you can run that base load coal 24/7, where you can't do that unless you've got battery backup. You can't do that with the solar.
Yeah, but even with battery backup, you still really can't completely do it. You still have to have something. At the moment, you have to have something to fill the gaps, whether it be LNG is kind of the preferred one that people use, but in some
Although
cases,
that
oil.
is not available unless they're getting you know uh, yeah, liquefied natural gas. I'm sorry, I was thinking regular natural gas out of Russia. No, liquefied natural gas they can be getting by tanker.
Right.
Not
Yeah,
not not up the
I
Red
realize you
Sea
don't have the.
anymore. They got to sail all the way around the Cape Horn and back up.
Yeah,
Not
coal's
Cape Horn.
probably more
Cape
reliable for them at the
Yeah,
moment.
the Cape of Good Hope.
Yeah, I'm just saying you can use the solar and certainly cut back on all that use of fossil fuels, but it's a challenge to
Yeah, I
ever
think
get
I think I
100%.
think Spain had set a record for the length of time that their grid was being powered by renewables,
Mhm.
wind and solar. So there's
It's possible.
basically it's possible, and there are countries that are doing it. In fact, the deeper I dig into the blue economy,
Yeah.
the more I learned that so much of these many of these island countries. Oh well, I was looking at just this morning. I was looking at the Seychelles. I
Mhm.
now know where the Seychelles are, and I know where their power comes from and things like that. So, but increasingly they're going over to I'm sorry, solar and wind because all their other power has to be brought in by tanker.
Yeah, there's challenges in that funding for the government in all these island countries. A lot of it comes from the fossil fuel industry. So it's really hard to get them to approve alternatives when the oil companies are dependent on the profits they make off of that, and the country is dependent on the oil
Yeah,
companies.
well, case in point is the
Ultimately.
island. I think it's Union Island in the Grenadines,
Mhm.
and that they were entirely all solar, and they had battery backup. And it came through a hurricane came through in 2024 and wiped out about 40% of that. That was built by the Masdar Foundation, which is a funded by I'm going to just call it United Arab Emirates because it's one
Mhm.
of the Emirates that funded that. So they have fortunately come back in and um, and are helping them to rebuild it. But you're right, a lot of that is being done by benevolent countries with deep fossil fuel reserves.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something that people always, it seems like it'd be so obvious. We'll just switch to solar. Of course, one of the problems is having enough land area that's available to put the solar. I mean, you look at, obviously you can put it on all the roofs, right? But
Yep.
it's harder to do like a solar farm.
Case in point, Solar Time brings up here. They are building and installing solar like crazy in and around Havana. not so much the outer parts, at least that I'm aware of, but they're really going at it in some of the more wealthy neighborhoods, and especially where the embassies are located. Um, so that is happening. That they're making huge strides there because again, we have embargoed the oil and trying to put the squeeze on them to get them to back off on the revolution of 1959. Good Lord, what's that been? 60 years. So yeah, so they're going over. And of course, where do you think those panels are coming from?
China.
Of course, they're coming from
Yeah.
China. So yeah.
Yep.
Although technically, they could also some of them be coming from Puerto Rico, but I suspect most of them are coming from China.
They're making the panels in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they do.
Interesting. All right. So California launches a $3,500 My First EV rebate for first-time buyers. So if you're a first-time considering your first EV purchase in California, they have a $3,500 instant rebate for EVs under $50,000. $1,750 for used EVs under $25,000, exclusively for first-time EV buyers. They have $270 million program funded 50% by the state and 50% by automakers, which that's kind of interesting. Replaces lost federal credits. 13 automakers are participating. Research shows that if they can get somebody to buy their first EV, 96% of EV owners.
Well, exactly. Yep. They doggone car makers. They want to get us hooked on electric cars. Hey, I'm in for it. Also, if you're looking at a used, it's $1,750 available. If the EV is less than $25,000, you can get half of that, $3,500 put down
I want to
for
talk about
buying the car.
on what Solar Times brings. If all roofs in the U.S. were used, it would power 90% of electrical needs. Now that would be 90% of residential needs. One of the things that's interesting is in the United States, our energy. I'm trying to think of what the number was. We personally, in our residence, use in the United States something like 8% of our overall energy footprint, and it's interesting. So while that would be great for everybody's homes, so much energy is used in industry and businesses and things like that. Because I remember Mike and I were talking about this one time. The average American consumes the equivalent of something like 100 kilowatts a day, but that's based on all kinds of energy usage, and it's not. We're not directly paying it on our electric bill.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah.
Because
it's in the goods and services we buy.
It takes electricity, if you weren't aware of this, to make gasoline. Right? Yep. So even if you're driving a gas car and you're happy with it and you're, chuckling at all us poor souls who got deceived into buying an electric car and having to plug it in every night and all that, guess what? That gasoline requires electricity to refine and get to you. So
yeah, it's funny how some of that works, but at some point the price of solar is going to be such that everybody will have it on their houses. It just doesn't make sense not
to. It's getting there at a crazy fast rate. Now the question is, can U.S. solar manufacturers, because we're starting to see that being pumped up again, can those U.S. manufacturers compete against the Chinese that have just dominated the market?
Well, some of the Chinese companies have started manufacturing in the United States now. So I know there's panel manufacturing in Texas that's Chinese owned, and it's automated.
Yeah, I can't see where, other than having people, I guess all the assembly of the frames can be done robotically, obviously. the creation of, putting in the glass plates or the coating or whatever, all that can be done automated. There might be some, some things that require fine handwork to plug in the inverters or, whatever, micro inverters and things. But yeah, probably people doing inspections, although even that can now be done by the robotically.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Anyways, I just find that interesting. Actually, I had somebody who's in California. His car's having trouble, and he's looking at buying a car. And I said, I think California's got something for you. So I sent him this article actually on that. And, it's like, oh, that's pretty decent. So
Yeah, particularly again, you got to be a first time EV owner.
he'd be a first time EV owner. I
Yeah.
think he has a plug-in hybrid currently.
Well, it
So
wouldn't technically qualify. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know what the
Probably
rules
somewhere in
are.
the fine print of that bill, there's some clarification on that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic. Hydrogen versus battery EVs. Cost gap widens dramatically.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the economics of hydrogen, and we don't hear as many people trying to pitch hydrogen as more as we did a couple of years ago, right? When we first started doing the
Not.
show, people were talking about it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Not so
Well,
much
even
now.
yeah, back then it was really strong. Back 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Not
So
not anymore.
Yeah, so this is comparing a Tesla Model Y versus a Toyota Mirai. So your cost to charge annually a Model Y is going to be between $750 to $800 per year, typically on home charging, versus the Toyota's $7,200 a year in hydrogen fuel. So you've got about a 9 times as expensive
And that's
vehicle.
probably subsidized. I would
Subsidized
bet.
hydrogen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even using superchargers, battery EVs are still 5 times cheaper to operate than hydrogen. And this is
Yeah.
one of the things. It's like we used to look at all these technologies. We're like, here's a sailboat. It's powered by solar and wind, and it's collecting water and it's converting it into hydrogen, bringing it to port. And it was like, oh, that's great. It didn't make a whole lot of hydrogen, but the boats cost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it was like, you still
Or the barges. Didn't we do something on Seine River barges where
yeah.
we ran the numbers and they had hydrogen stored on board and it fed a fuel cell and it propelled the barge up and
Yeah.
down the Seine, and yeah, it just economics are
You
crazy.
know,
Or we were
yeah,
talking about what, some kind of a vessel that would sail from Europe, to the new world
yeah.
and generate hydrogen along the way. So yeah,
I love the idea of your tankers and your cargo ships all having the deployable sails, right? Because
hmm
we talked about that. There's some automated programs out there for putting sails on those big ships, and they can almost, if they have the wind with them,
oh
they
yeah,
basically
what, yeah,
they can
there's, well, not these are like giant kites or parachutes, right? They were
yeah,
release them out. Although some are shifting to streamlined modern types of sails. The other one is the God. What is the? I want to say Fletcher, but it's not Fletcher. But it's that rotating drum, right?
okay,
So they've got some of these now where they actually have it down in the in the fixed position. Then when it gets out and gets into favorable winds, this drum gets raised up on the, generally these are not on the container ships, these are generally on the LNGs or on the bulk tankers, and those
right.
things come up and then you start an electric motor, starts them spinning, and that spin effect pulls them through the water.
I mean, if that
It's
cuts
amazing.
their fuel usage by a third to a half, I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's a pretty amazing change, But we're not seeing enough of that yet. It seems like a great idea. But the battery or the hydrogen thing, high hydrogen prices and limited infrastructure make fuel cell electric vehicles impractical for most drivers, despite faster refueling. And it's not that much. I mean, we're getting to a point now. In the next 10 years, people are going to be charging their vehicles in 5 minutes.
Oh,
You
not
know,
not not even 10,
well,
five,
the
10 years.
technology exists, right, Bill? It's a matter of it getting deployed.
Oh, it did put. There was a video I watched this morning on, I think it was on LinkedIn, where
Mhm,
BYD, this young lady, she charged it from 10 to 70% in 5 minutes
mhm,
and 10 to 90% in, was it 9 minutes, something like that? Because
mhm.
obviously when you get closer to full, it
Takes
takes
longer.
longer. Yeah, it takes longer for that last 20, 30%. But yeah, we're already now at 5 minute charges. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always loved that comparison about parking lots. When you're charging an EV battery, it's like you go to the grocery store parking lot, and if the parking lot's empty, everybody can park really fast, and that's how the electrons are going into their spots. But once it starts getting full, it gets about 80% full, and it's harder to find parking spots.
Yep.
It takes a lot longer for people to get
For those
parked.
electrons to find that slot. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great
they got to find their
analogy.
parking spot. Yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's a really good explanation of how batteries work. Works that way on your phone, your Apple Watch, um, all kinds of technologies work basically the same there. Now, um, all right, what do we got today? All right, so nuclear energy gaining momentum. Trump had a July 4th deadline set, and so the idea was to get three nuclear reactor companies to go critical by the July 4th, 2026. There actually was four made to date. One of them was Valor Atomics, and they were the first startup to ever have a reactor go critical.
Now, where was it? Where did it take place?
Idaho National Labs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so these didn't go critical and power any infrastructure, but they were able to fire up a reactor that
Okay.
they had built as a small modular reactor.
Okay.
So, um, anyways, this was a
I've
pretty
told I've
big deal.
Yeah, I've told the story before. Actually been to the Idaho labs and stood on the very first nuclear reactor to light a light bulb.
Oh
There's
wow!
one of these big Edison type of light bulbs, hanging with the filaments and things hanging from the ceiling. I could reach up and touch it. But yeah, they so it's nice to see, as long as obviously we're careful with the stuff. It's not like turning a crank on a generator. It's a little bit more dangerous than that.
Well, just a little, just a little. You know, um, it takes. You know, one of the things of these newer reactor types is they're designed with inherent safety in the chemistry
Yes.
versus
Yeah.
requiring humans to make sure everything is safe. And so that's and it's not just one reactor type. There's like 8 reactor types that qualify as generation 4, where
Right.
and all generation 4 ones are ones where the chemistry takes over. So a human basically can't screw it up. And those were, those
Throw
now,
the wrong switch.
yeah, you know, well, we've all watched Homer Simpson running the Springfield nuclear power plant,
Yeah.
and all the goofy things he's had happen operating that probably hasn't helped with a lot of things. Of course, what's always funny is I think there's a Springfield in like every state, so you never really know what state is
Yes,
supposed to be in.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
no, but anyways, let's see here. Let's we talked about the EV rebates. All right.
Talk
EV,
about the JD Powers
yeah,
appeal.
we'll talk about that next.
Okay.
All right. EV owners love their EVs, says JD Power's latest appeal study. While owner satisfaction overall it's rising, it's biggest amongst EV owners. That's kind of fascinating. Um, so battery electric vehicles saw the largest year-over-year increase, plus 22 points. Battery EVs outperformed internal combustion engine vehicles in nearly every category and appeal, with the biggest advantage in powertrain satisfaction, leading by 109 points.
Yeah, all you got to do is get in that car and press that accelerator, and vroom, right?
Yeah.
You just love it.
Well, it's like when you're trying to merge or you're trying to turn left at a red light, you're waiting or you're on the middle light, you don't have the green arrow and you're waiting to turn left. It's
Right.
like a gas car. You're like, well, is it going to accelerate fast enough to make this? With an EV, you don't have to consider that.
No problem. Yep, no problem
Um,
whatsoever. Or it's
but
when you're pulling up and you see the light turns yellow and you're back far enough that in the gas car you'll never make it. But in the Bolt, no problem.
oh,
Just
uh,
by the way, I dug a little deeper than what this article did. The JD Powers appeal score has a 1,000 point potential. Okay, so the highest that you could get was 1,000. And of course, it's very seldom. I don't know if anybody ever reaches. It's a mechanical thing. They probably never reach 1,000. So where are gas cars in that? Gas cars are rated at 850, the best ones. 850 out of 1,000. Where are the electrics? 910.
hmm.
So the 22% increase was just referring to the powertrain, you know, the 109, just referring to that. But the overall score, it jumped from apparently down, 22, somewhere around 880, 890. It's jumped up to 110 now.
Nice, nice. Yeah, well, it's pretty considerable that it's been that big of you know, that big of a jump. And then
Yeah,
this,
well, this again, this is the reason why once you drive an EV, you do not want to go back. You just don't. It's not, and I keep using this over and over again. It's like going from flying in a DC-3 or a DC-6 to a Boeing 707. When that transition took place in the 1950s, you just aren't going back. There's no
nope.
place for prop planes in commercial aviation after that, and there's no place for gasoline-powered cars, personal vehicles in the future when you've got EVs that can drive 500, 600 miles and be charged in 5 minutes. It just not happen. You're not going back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I was saying, to get to the 5 minute charging here in the States, it's going to take a few years.
Oh,
We need, we obviously we need charging
and if
infrastructure to support that. But we talked about this a lot. You could have battery storage, holding and discharging that energy into the cars pretty fast.
absolutely,
Yeah, so
yep,
there's some workarounds on the
yep.
infrastructure even, but ultimately, you still have to get enough power to that charging site to make that work. So that's because you still could have a max power draw that can really negatively affect um, the local
Yeah,
grid.
yeah.
So let's let's see. Let's move around to this EV boat story.
Oh yeah, this is good. This is a good one.
All right. So E1's electric boats raise hope for an African blue economy boost. But can they deliver? Didier Drogba, who's a famous soccer player from the Ivory Coast, had his first E1 victory, giving the electric boat championship greater visibility. Um, Africa's large but underdeveloped blue economy makes the series relevant, particularly for coastal tourism, maritime innovation, and investment promotion.
Do you know how big the coastline is? I had to look this up, by the way. The total coastline of Africa is
Oh, I'm sure it's ridiculous.
47,000 kilometers.
Wow.
So
That's
there's, so
about the
there's,
same as going around the equator.
yeah, it's, there's, the enormous potential. Of course, as you're aware, I've been working on this, extended range hybrid electric hydrofoil idea, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things I was doing this morning, because yesterday I sat in recorded a conference that was taking place about the blue economy, taking place on the island of Gran Canary, Gran Canaria, I think it's called, which is of course part of the Canary Islands off the coast of west coast of Africa. Um, and so they were raising some of these different issues, the island economies and so on. So I started thinking, well, because most of my research on this has been focused on the Caribbean. I said, well, what about Africa? And so on. So I ended up in the Seychelles Islands and learning all about the Seychelles. But yeah, there's enormous potential with a coastline that long and resources that they have. The populations tend to be gathered along coastlines anyway. There's a great potential to develop a whole series of economic development that would be good for the people and good for the planet.
In this Formula E thing, there's a lot of famous high-profile team owners in this space. You got
Yeah,
LeBron
yeah.
James, Rafael Nadal, Will Smith, Steve Aoki, and Mark Anthony. Those are all,
And what and one of the football guys, right? Oh God, what's his name?
well, other than this Didier Drogba.
No, no, this is an American football player, I think. I may be confusing him, so let's
Yeah,
move on.
yeah, it could be, but that's a lot of people into the e-boat racing.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, in fact, I just messaged the gentleman that started this whole sort of phenomenon of electric car racing and things like that. I've interviewed him in the past and known him for a long time. So I wrote him and congratulated him because it's amazing. They're doing open wheel racing with the Formula E program. They have the Extreme E program, which is off-road vehicles using hydrogen,
mhm.
right? Going in some of the strangest, most difficult terrain on the planet, doing racing there. And now they've got the E1. And I suspect at some point when we get the technology there, we'll be doing electric plane racing. In fact, we've already got some VTOL racing, eVTOL racing, sort of embryonic
Really?
stage. Oh yeah, they had a race down in Australia. Um, so again, it's all embryonic at this point. But I can see that at some point we're going to have electric airplane racing.
I can see getting on one of those like single driver EVs. It looks like a large drone, essentially.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
that's what they were doing in Australia.
yeah. Oh man.
So you will have that category of flight racing, but I think you'll also, because Rolls Royce developed what I think is still the fastest prop plane powered by a battery. And I
Huh.
think they've sort of moved that. They've sort of shelved that for the time being. But I think we'll see that more and more coming on. As a matter of fact, EAA, the Air Venture convention, just finished up last week, and they had again this year, prior to the opening of the Air Venture week-long air show, they had an electric aviation seminar that takes place there. So we're starting to see more electric aircraft starting to be displayed there. So yeah, I think we'll see it probably another 3-4 years. We'll
We're seeing the transition.
Alejandro will dip his toe or stick his finger or thumb or whatever into electric air racing. That's going to happen.
Well, you look at how far things have progressed in the 3 years we've been doing the show.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we've talked about some of these things. Like nobody talks about fires anymore. Nobody really talks about hydrogen anymore as far as an alternative to EVs. Um, and it's just it's interesting to just see how many changes, how many brands are out there, and what we've seen in the battery space, costs going down. We talked about this 3 years ago, how the EVs going to keep getting cheaper and cheaper because the batteries, and
It's in some places, in some regards, we're at parity. and we're going to be. It's going to. I mean, it will be your cheapest option going forward in the next 5 years. Electric's the only way to go. We have to solve for the people that live in multifamily housing. That issue still has to be addressed, and there is some movement in limited areas where that's happening, but we need to have that more widespread. But other than that,
Well,
if you live in a private home with a driveway, go with an EV. Charge it at
I've
home.
talked to large scale developers in Texas, and my suggestion to them would be to offer free level one charging to all their tenants, and
Yeah.
put in solar carports. So you've already got the energy coming from solar with some battery storage, and you could use that to both give the tenants free charging for their vehicles, and you could use it to power all the common areas in the apartment complex.
Yep.
Okay, the pool, all of those kind of things, the clubhouse. You wouldn't supply power to all the tenants, but you could then not have an electric bill for the facility itself, while still giving free charge. There'd be no need for level two chargers necessarily.
Right.
They could still have some, but the truth is, those folks, they could always might have a level two access at work, or they might have access just to go to a supercharger and charge up fully when they really needed to. I'm
Or
just
they
throwing
could-
that out there. I think that's a reasonable solution
Yep.
when you build the apartment complex, because
Yep.
installing solar is way cheaper at the developer level than it is putting it on a house.
Later on, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's at least 60% cheaper. And so there's just a lot of things you can do there. Level one doesn't really charge much. And realistically, what are people going to spend charging their car, or how many electrons? What would be retail? Maybe max $50 worth, max, more likely probably $20 worth.
What's
And
that
then we're
for a month or a day
a month.
or a week?
In a month. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're getting it from the solar anyways, then your real cost of producing it is really cheap.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even end up being that kind of expense for the apartment complex. We're talking more like $10 of expense.
Do they? Yeah, typically. It's Texas, so they may not have heated pools. But I'm thinking the cost of, just the natural gas to heat the complex's pool might, be
Right.
offset.
Right. Well, and the reason I say Texas is the other states, it's really hard to sell energy. So in their particular case, in the solution I'm proposing, they would use all the energy themselves. But in Texas, they could, if they made excess energy, they could then sell that to the grid, which would then sell it to tenants, and they could
Right.
sell it at a reasonable price. But for instance, in Florida, you have to sell that power to the local grid at like a nickel, and then they'll
Yeah.
sell it to your tenants for 15 cents.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem hardly fair to the folks spending all the capex on the solar equipment, right? So that's a little bit of a different story. So Texas, it works really well. It doesn't work as well everywhere else, just because of the economics of the monopoly that the local utility has.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, want to appreciate it. We ran a little over today. But folks, thanks for watching today, and I'll be back with Mike, our engineer, on Friday. Otherwise, folks, have a great day.